Hi guys, I'm Chris,
And I'm Asher.
and we are in week 4 of Asher's summer business, where we are creating videos on finance. We're looking at his $50 stock portfolio, and we have some really fun news about the Fork House project this week. So, at a high level, Asher, what are your 5 stocks up to as far as news?
So the Electronic Arts has good news.
Okay.
The McDonald's has okay news. Mondelez International has good news. Target has good news. And Amazon has okay news.
That's right. So we try to see how that news affects the stock prices. And so EA was listed as being a growth stock. It's doing really well. Target has introduced groceries, more groceries for the curbside pickup. And Amazon, they've delayed their Prime Day this year because of COVID. Okay, so let's come around here. We'll look at the stocks themselves and see how they did. Asher, why don't you kind of show us? We went from 132.
133.
Okay, that's good. 179 to.
183.
Okay, 50 to.
51.
Okay, 117 to.
119.
And then 2,692 to.
2,890.
So overall, the stocks actually had an up week. Last week they went down a little bit. Now they've picked back up. And to date, you've earned how much on your $50 investment?
$4.18.
$4.18. We got a dividend last week. The stocks came back up, so it's doing real well there, right? Okay, now let's switch over and we'll talk about the Fork House. Okay, so here's the fun part. I've been looking forward to this for weeks. So, the cows, if you guys may recall, we had Spendy, Savvy, Stocky, and Oni. They're 4 cows working at a Chick-fil-A. The Oni is the bottom one. And we want to see how their spending habits do when disaster hits. And what's the disaster that happened this week?
Hurricane Chicken!
Hurricane Chicken. Okay? So what happened with Hurricane Chicken is a hurricane came through Cowtown, right? And what happened to their houses?
They all got
Destroyed.
Yeah.
They all got destroyed. So now we're going to see how each of the cows handles the fact that their house was destroyed by a hurricane. So why don't you come on over, and we're going to kind of walk through the math real quick on what we did. We basically took for each cow what savings they had left over, and if they had other assets they can work with, and see whether or not they could afford replacing a house at $220. Okay? So Spendy, he had how many dollars in savings?
50.
Did he have anything else he could work with?
Yep.
He tried.
He had a motorcycle and a boat.
And a pool, but he
Yep.
couldn't really use that,
No.
right? So overall, he had how many dollars he could work with?
55. Well, he has 105.
105. The house cost.
220.
Was he able to buy a house?
No.
No. So unfortunately,
But lucky for him, he got to live with his mom.
yes. So Spendy's going home to live with mom. Okay. So he's not doing too well. He tried to sell some of his stuff. We also learned, by the way, this is a good lesson here for Spendy. Boats, cars, and other fun things like that don't retain their value, right? So he bought his motorcycle for $30, but he could only sell it for $15, as an example. So he didn't have enough, even selling off all of his stuff, to buy a new house. So he went home to live with mom. Okay, her name is Elsie. All right. Next up, we're looking at Savvy. How did Savvy do? Now, Savvy is the one, he just saves, right? He's got all his money in the savings account. So he came in, he had $220 at the end of this year 4. The disaster struck, so that's what he had, right? And was he able to purchase the house?
Yes.
Yes, so, whew, Savvy just made it, okay?
Yeah, with still food and clothes and all the things he needs.
Exactly, because he paid his expenses, which were $70, right? Food, clothing. He just made it. So Savvy did all right. He doesn't have anything left over, but he did okay. And he was able to replace his house. Now let's look at Stocky. Asher, tell us the 2 things he had to work with for rebuying his house.
His savings and his stocks. Yeah.
That's right. So yeah, 130 in stocks, and his in savings, and his stocks grew, by the way. How much more did it grow this past year?
$10.
$10. So he's working with how much in stocks?
255.
255 total. So $130 in savings, 125 in stocks. He bought his house for $220. They all replaced their house for $220. How much did he have left over?
$35.
$35. So he got to replace his house, and he had $35 left over. So there's a big lesson here between Savvy and Stocky. Do you remember what that lesson was we talked about?
So like if you save,
Mm-hmm.
like you might not get as much money as you could have
Mm-hmm.
if you went on a stock.
Mm-hmm. Or if you invest,
Yeah.
like Stocky, right?
Yep.
So Stocky took on a little risk. He bought some stocks. He lent his money to some companies, bought some stock. They worked hard, and they increased the stock value. And so he ended up having a little extra. If something happens next year to to Savvy, does he have any buffer to deal with another disaster?
No.
He's got no cash right now. So he's kind of in a tough spot if anything goes wrong. He did okay with his savings, but it didn't grow his money. He just kept what he saved, right? Stocky did grow his money.
So
He's got...
No.
Go ahead.
Well, he might not have as much money as you could have, you go ahead.
Okay, so he has $35, so he can still tolerate another small disaster if something happened. He's doing better. His money grew because he grew it, right? Okay, last but certainly not least is Oni.
He's
So
the best of all.
Oni did well, right? He came into the year with $1,300
$20.
and $20, yeah. He still made his $1,000 on the franchise. And he had so much cash savings left over, he decided to go ahead. And what did he do with that loan he was holding for the original investment?
He finished it off.
He paid it off. He dropped another $500 and paid off the $1,000 loan. And did he have enough money to buy a house?
Yes.
He did.
A lot.
So come on now, let's quickly look at that. At the end of that year, he had how much money in savings?
1,730.
That's right. He paid the house, so what did he have left over?
1,510.
And he had a house replacement, and he has his business. So Oni's done really well because he took the most risk on the team. He got a franchise. He had enough cash to pay off his loan and replace his house in year 4. So he really handled the disaster really well. So we got to see this week, Spendy had some real problems. He wasn't thinking of the future. Savvy saved all his money but didn't invest it and grow it. Stocky grew it. And, of course, Oni's done really well. I'm excited to see what he's going to do next year. All right?
And see you next time.